I work with Direct Out right now. I'm on the show in the behalf of Direct Out, but I have my own private company. I also do consulting network design. I have a big project with Netgears that we can talk about later if you want. But now we will talk about PKI and TLS on IPMX and NMOS because, well, it will be a hot topic for the years to come, especially in EU, especially because of something called CRA. So yeah, more acronyms, of course. Wire secure communication, encryption, what is a PKI? What is TLS, NMOS, and IPMX? What do they use? The caveats and future proofing, and well, how do we do that at Direct Out? Because why not? So yeah, just for the history, it will be in the presentation on the website. PKI, Public Infrastructure, TLS, Transport Layer Security, CA, Certificate Authority, OCSP, Online Certificate Status Protocol, CRL, Certificate Revocation List, IS-10, well, that's NMOS, we know that already. BCP 003, that's an NMOS best common practice about securing NMOS. And this is the most interesting in the context of this presentation. So why do we want to do that? We want to avoid spoofing, device impersonation. We want to avoid attacks by API tampering, and we want to avoid rogue flow interception. And of course, we have the compliance driver. The Cyber Resiliency Act, this is for all of the EUs, not only the market of broadcast, but of course we have the lovely EBUs with another recommendation, and this one is already in tenders. I was working with Direct Out. I am helping the company answer some tenders, and of 143 is already in the tenders. Do every manufacturer respect Air 143 at the moment? Definitely not. Okay, so it's a business requirement. I did that. I said that already. But CRA is, of course, more than just certificates. We will just take the certificates today and let's move. And yes, cybersecurity is about authentication, encryption, and the both combined. So it's not just encryption. Because you have a flow encrypted on the network doesn't mean it's secure. It's about the authentication. Is the source of my flow the source I can trust? So the problem with I get that every year. It's very slow, but it will eventually. So the problem comes from the types of encryption. We have two types of encryption. Symmetric encryption, which is using the same key. This is what you use when you are sending an encoded zip file. You choose the password of the zip file. The zip program is actually generating a key from this password, and you tell the password to the person that is required to open the zip file. This is very fast, but the keeper of the secret is you. You give the password. And if the password leaks, then it's wrong. But if someone takes the zip, has the password, it can forge a new zip with the same password, and you can open it and use the data in this zip, and you have no way of knowing that this zip is actually authenticated from the source that you expect it to be. This is why we are using asymmetric encryption. Asymmetric encryption is using a private key and a public key. The public key is a public known information. It's not a secret, so you can share it with anyone. But the private key, this is the ultimate secret. You keep it for yourself. And by signing with your private key, the signature can be authenticated with the public key. Sounds familiar with some of you? Because you use that actually every day. Every time you are on a HTTPS website, it uses an X509 certificate. And a certificate is signed with a private key, and it supports, so yeah. This, and it is signed, and in the certificate you have a list of features on the certificate. For instance, I have this key, it has a certificate. What can I do with this key? I can sign websites, okay. I can sign email, okay. I can generate new certificate with the certificate. That makes this certificate a certificate authority. Or I cannot. And slowly, we are transitioning into the public key infrastructure. Yes. So who does issue the certificate? Maybe right now you are using HTTPS on your broadcast devices and you have self-signed certificate. So you sign the certificate yourself. Once again, who authenticates that you are signing yourself? Who authenticates the signature? Because it is self-signed, there is no way to authenticate that you are on the origin of the certificate. It's a matter of trust and of third party. You always rely on a third party to ensure that you can trust the communication between two parties. The third party will not necessarily distribute the keys for the encryption, but the third party will make sure that the sender and the receiver of the encryption are the right people. So if I put a web server ibc2025.director.eu with a secured HTTP connection, I will have an information on my browser saying, I cannot validate this certificate. Why? Because I cannot put it in a PKI, a public key infrastructure. And actually the system is asking you to decide. So because the certificate is not automatically authenticated, the system is asking you to decide. In a PKI, you have signature, and the signature is authenticated. So like what we used to do with checks when we were using them. And to do the authentication, we will use a PKI, but also we can revoke the authentication with the certificate revoke list. So if in the certificate there is a line that says you can find the list of revocation from this certificate. If the certificate is a certificate authority, this means that you can generate certificates and you can also remove certification of the authorization list. So it's like distributing a key to someone, and then you can keep the key, but I change the lock. Like I did with my ex-wife. I'm kidding. So yeah, finally the public infrastructure. So this is a chain of trust. The public infrastructure consists of a root certificate. The root certificate, you have to authorize it. You trust it. You do an explicit trust of this certificate. You actually do that every time you install Windows or Linux or any system and the browser, because there are 4 or 5 institutions worldwide that are secured and generating most of the certificates that are used on the World Wide Web. So their certificate is embedded in all the systems, and they will generate a chain of certificate until we get to the chain ibc2025.director.eu. So the generator certificate, the owner actually will generate a private key, a public key. The certificate will be signed by the root certificate, and then the owner of this certificate, if it's a certificate authority, will be able to generate a new certificate that is signed, and at the endpoint, the browser will go up the chain, validating that, okay, this is by this certificate. I don't know this certificate, but this certificate is signed by this certificate. I know this certificate. So going down the chain, I can make sure that I trust who gives me the certificate. And once again, why do I trust? Because this certificate is encoded with the private key actually, because I trust the certificate, now I can use the private key of the certificate, meaning that the server can encode secrets with its private key, and I can use the public key to decode it, and it will be authenticated from this. Double click. Yeah. Okay, so the best practice around that, and this is, I mean, 4 months ago I was not an expert, and I don't claim to be an expert right now in certificate and security, but I had to learn that. So it's basically what motivated this talk, to help you speed up the learning curve. And the best practice is, of course, the private key must not be shared. So right now on some devices, you even have the ability to generate CSR, Certificate Signing Requests. And those signing requests mean that even the private key will not get leaked. The private key will stay inside the device. If you know the old way is that you get on your PC, you generate a certificate with a private key, and then you copy the private key into the device, and you copy the public key into the device. This is bad because you copy the private key, so the private key leaks. You can tell me, and I trust you, I did it with the best process, and I am sure that the key is not leaked yet, but still, there's a human in the chain, and we love human, but they can't be trusted. Again, my ex-wife. So the privacy and the private key is the cornerstone of this public infrastructure. The root certificate must be there, and it doesn't have to be a public root certificate or a public certificate authority that you pay 50k euros a year. It can be yourself, but you have to put the root certificate in the system then. You have to explicitly trust the root certificate of the public infrastructure that you have. And of course, the CRL, the certificate revocation list. This is very important. And personally, when I generated certificates, of course, the first one, I did it the wrong way. So always the first certificate gets revoked. It's like the crepes, you know, when the first one always goes to the bin. Yeah, and so it's, of course, the security will depend on the root certificate. I guarantee you that the root certificate of the big certification authority, they are in a safe, locked from any manipulation, and they stay safe and get out of the safe unless they are really needed. On the other way, when who is the free signing authority for website? I lost that. Let's Encrypt. When Let's Encrypt is giving me a certificate, well, it's kind of loose, and it's giving me. So it's not really a big. I'm not really a big. My element in the chain of trust, so the trust and the security here is quite loose. Yeah, so it's a secret. So this is important to know. When it's a secret, the more automation you involve into generating the secret, and this is BCP 003, the more automation you involve in the secret, and the best is the secret. So how do we use TLS? TLS, which is actually the technology that the HTTPS is using, it authenticates the endpoint, so the server, secures the communication, use an asymmetric key to exchange actually a symmetric key that will be used for the communication. But because the symmetric key is generated between a secure communication between the sender and the receiver, the exchange symmetric key is known only from the server and the receiver. It ensures confidentiality, authenticity. And let's say NMOS and IPMX. So NMOS IS10, it handles authorization. Who am I? What rights do I have? BCP03, it's TLS, HTTPS, and you can go, BCP02 is automatic provisioning, so it ensures that the secret is not rigged, etc. So IPMX uses NMOS, but when a stream encryption is required, it will use PEP. It's in the phase of standardization, let's say like that. And I have 2 more slides, and you will be free. Yeah, so the media streams, right now there's PEP that we are talking about, and the issue with the private key is also the problem of the secret. If there's a symmetric key to encode a private stream, how do I make sure that the secret is safe? And with ST2110, there's a lot of multicast, so there's an issue with that. If we have a group of receivers and they share the same key and the group change, then the receiver getting out of the group should not have the key to decode the flow. But it depends on how the level of, what is the level of security do you want to do. So PEP I will let for later. You can look at the presentation online, but basically it has everything it is needed. But there are also, of course, caveats. So authentication encryption does not compensate for network segmentation. And if you are doing broadcasting, you are most likely segmenting your network, hyper-segmenting your network way more than VLANs. Proper use of rights management. I was installing a system in a school last week, and it told me, yeah, just make 1 account for every one of us. I said, no, I will not. You can use 1 account, but I will not make 1 account, because I will not encourage you to have weak security. Ciphers are not perfect. And there will be a slide after the discussion that you can get online with the time that is needed and the list of different ciphers and their status right now. Yes, always needs maintenance and vigilance. And if you are a product designer, you know that there's lots of EU recommendation and enforcement coming up that will require you to disclose the vulnerabilities. So at Direct Out, we provide our own PKI so that it's plug and play. You will install the PKI, and then every HTTPS server will be recognized and authenticated. It's not released yet. This is done in the short term, and in the mid-term, we will also encrypt flows. But mid-term because it has to go fast, but not short-term because it's not decided yet. Okay, and there we are. Any questions can be...
We have time.
We have time?